And you know what, fellas? Listen, we had notes, we had games to talk about, we had everything lined up perfectly. Well, let's just get right into this. Florida State, y'all suck. All right. There is no way that you guys are ranked 10 and got absolutely embarrassed by Georgia Tech. Now, I know everyone is going to come at me. Oh, it was a close game. The hell it was. Your quarterback couldn't throw nothing more than 5 yards down the field. The entire game was jet option and screen passes and defense. You know that you're supposed to tackle the ball carrier, right? The guy who has the ball, that's the guy who you're supposed to tackle. I didn't see that last weekend. I know y'all didn't see that last weekend. So let's just dive right into this. Florida State, I mean, what happened? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beard Zone Sports Talk, where the takes are almost as bold as the beards. My name is David. I got Carlos. I got Scooter. And gentlemen, the time is now. College football is upon us. It's always electric. The rivalries, they run through the generations. Every game, every Saturday has a big play that is going to be on the top 10 highlight reel. This is what college football is all about. And you know what, fellas? Listen, we had notes, we had games to talk about, we had everything lined up perfectly. Well, let's just get right into this. Florida State, y'all suck. All right. There is no way that you guys are ranked 10 and got absolutely embarrassed by Georgia Tech. Now, I know everyone is going to come at me. Oh, it was a close game. The hell it was. Your quarterback couldn't throw nothing more than 5 yards down the field. The entire game was jet option and screen passes and defense. You know that you're supposed to tackle the ball carrier, right? The guy who has the ball, that's the guy who you're supposed to tackle. I didn't see that last weekend. I know y'all didn't see that last weekend. So let's just dive right into this. Florida State, I mean, what happened?
Just not much.
Terrible play. Terrible play calling.
How much happened? Exactly.
Terrible play calling on the offense. You already hit it. It was basically 5 yards or nothing. Is highly touted as DJ disappointment. However, he was rated coming into, was it Clemson, then OSU, Oregon State, and then coming into FSU as this hot item. They should have just stuck with the freshman that started when, Travis got injured. So from a defensive standpoint, I don't know what they were doing. It wasn't tackling. It wasn't getting after the quarterback. Georgia Tech kind of just controlled the game as they typically would in like a slower pace game, and FSU just totally missed the mark. Completely overrated, and the only way that they make the playoff now is if they win out. And you still got to play Clemson and UF and Miami. It's just not looking good.
No, not for them. I think there was just too much hype coming out of Tallahassee that they were just this perennial, and I read a lot about it, but DJ, problem with him, he can't throw a ball more than 20 yards down the field. He can, but not to a receiver. So that's been the knock on him since Clemson. 5-star kid coming out of high school, like gonna just turn the world on fire. Clemson, and he bombed. Oregon State, he was okay. He just can't throw the ball. That's his problem. He's good from 5 to 10 yards, like David said, those quick passes. But man, if you ask this guy to throw vertically, it's not going to happen. And that's a disappointment if you're an FSU fan. If you're a Miami fan, it's great.
It is a good day to be a Miami fan or a Florida fan at that, for that matter. And we will definitely get into that game. That is a game on today's take-up. But before we get too far into this episode, do us a favor. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that like button. We're going to be here all college season long, from the very first kickoff all the way until someone is hoisting that national championship and the confetti is falling down. And hearts are broken everywhere across the nation. So definitely subscribe, because you will not want to miss a single episode this year. Fellas, we got some games on the ticket this weekend. We've circled a few of them, so let's get right into the first one. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Some serious tradition, dating back, right? And that's about all we can say about this game. But from the outside looking in, I don't see too much excitement, but they are, they got College Game Day there. What do you guys think about this game? What should we expect from these two teams?
Not a lot. I mean, Notre Dame comes in every year highly ranked. I think that the thing is Texas A&M. When Jimbo was there, they broke the bank of that $30 million a year of NIL money and just they bought every player, that it blew up in their face. And then some of those guys are gone, so it's like the rebuild for them in a sense. And they got some players. I'm a big fan of their quarterback, Connor Wagon. I think he's a good quarterback. They've got a good defensive front, but it's being a Miami fan, you hate Notre Dame. Just it's so much. So I will definitely be an Aggie fan this weekend for sure. But it's really two programs that are just. I don't think either one can afford to lose. I mean, Notre Dame maybe because it's Notre Dame, but I don't think A&M can afford to lose this game. I think they're. It's just a confidence building game. I just can't see anything their season going well if they don't win this game against Notre Dame.
If you wanted to look at the money spent between the 80s to now, and you're a Notre Dame fan, you're absolutely furious at the amount of losses and national championships you absolutely blundered. My brother went to Purdue. Notre Dame could suck it. My mother-in-law went to A&M, so go Aggies. It's pretty simple for me on this one. If you're the SEC, you're just going to embarrass another team and move on. Notre Dame hasn't been relevant since before I was born. So it is what it is. If you're the ACC, you want Notre Dame to win. So because Notre Dame plays the majority of the ACC, and they would be beating another SEC team. So if you look at it that way, yeah, the game does have some repercussions. I think it's more on the A&M side. If they lose, it kind of looks bad on them. But if Notre Dame loses now, they can always rebound in some weird ESPN or college playoff slap on the wrist and, here's some more money. Because that's how it is, man. The money is king in college football. If I was an SMU alum or fan, I'd be super pissed right now with all the money flowing around and getting the death penalty, if anyone remembers that. Notre Dame, they've always had talent and they've always been overrated. And I'm going to die on that hill until they prove us wrong with a national championship game win on that. They had their chance. They had Manti Te'o and Brian Kelly, and Brian Kelly's an overrated coach. Everyone knows it. And when he went to LSU, bold move. But A&M, Texas A&M is going to run away with this one. It's going to look great for the Aggies, just embarrassing a ranked team that should not be.
Yeah, so both of them are ranked, but I hear something. So I'm new into the college football world. So help some of the listeners that are trying to get into the college football world, because when I think of Notre Dame, I always see them as some sort of like they're always relevant, right? But for some reason, like you said, Scooter, they don't have any hardware to back it up. So why do we see year after year this team ranked so high, only just to fall and do a tailspin?
I'll take this. I'm going to take the heat in the comments. I don't really give anything. The significance of a program overweighs everything, and then you hit the recruiting trail and you buy your players now with NIL. Notre Dame will consistently be overranked because of who they are in their name. I'd rather take University of Charlotte or Bethune-Cookman over Notre Dame, because this is just how it is. Would you rather deal with Ohio State in their top 25 or deal with somebody else? Ohio State hasn't been able to beat Michigan in the past 3 years. So let's just take that into account. You haven't had a Notre Dame championship since maybe 86? It's 84 or something like that. Lou Holtz was young back then.
Wow.
Skip Holtz was probably still a child. I don't know. So, the Aggies, yes, there's always the Aggie choke. Anyone who understands the Texas A&M, you're going to get in the fourth quarter, you'll be up by 3 touchdowns. The next thing you know, they're choking, or they'll just beat Alabama for no apparent reason. So, College football has its history, right? More so than the NFL does. And you're going to have the bigger name, higher caliber schools that are dedicated pretty much for football. And you're going to get that favoritism. I don't care what Kirk Herbstreit says, there's no favoritism in the playoff and the committee. That's baloney. I'm trying to be PG about this, but that is absolute garbage. There's complete favoritism when it comes to preseason rankings and recruitment. Those two things alone. Look what we just saw. We watched Georgia Tech, who's supposed to be an engineering school, beat FSU, which, if anyone in Florida understands, it's a party school and then a law school.
Yeah.
And you win at games, you win sports. You don't go to FSU other than to get basically like a law degree or to play sports or get hammered drunk and pass out on the front lawn of your frat house.
Yeah, the reason Notre Dame just stays in the forefront, they're the only independent school. They don't belong to a conference. They got a huge NBC contract for television. I don't get it because they really don't. They're not a team.
Boosters.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't get it. But money talks, and they get a huge contract, TV contract, and they're a team that could lose 2 games, 3 games, and somehow still be in the talks of the playoffs. But I think this is Scooter said. I think this is A&M's time to shine here. I think it's they need the game more than Notre Dame for sure.
Yeah. I'll hold my comments. So let's go ahead and let's move on to another game. Carlos, I know that you're excited for this game, and you should be. This is the day. This is the moment that all Miami fans have been waiting for. They have done a phenomenal job this offseason in the transfer portal. And they're a team that I see as like kind of a quiet underdog this year. Especially with the 12-team playoffs coming in, they can definitely find themselves in a spot, and they're the team that if you sleep on them, I feel like that they can upset you. But Florida and Miami are facing off this weekend. Carlos, do us the honors and let's kick this game off, and let's see what you're looking at this weekend for your old Hurricanes there.
This is, for years, Miami wanted Florida every year like they do Florida State, and we had the state champions, and then Florida quit. They didn't want to do it anymore because the SEC is so tough and blah, blah, blah. They were just scared. That's all it was. So it's not going to be like in the past so much, but Miami, like you said, has done a great job of getting key players in, and one is Cam Ward at quarterback. It's not like it's going to be their best quarterback they've had in a while. Everything that I've seen out of spring ball, this guy is going to light it up. He can sling the rock, and it doesn't matter if it's 50 yards down the field. This guy, you put in perspective, had 3 years as a starter. He's thrown for almost 12,000 yards, and he's scored 100 touchdowns, which is ridiculous. He knows what to do with the football, and he's got a lot of talent in Miami. And the problem is on the other side with Florida, their quarterback they get in with Graham Mertz, he's the opposite. He's never had a season over 20 touchdowns. I believe he's got 5 years of college football already under his belt, no more than 8,000 yards total. And he's a dink and dunk guy. And I think Florida doesn't watch it. They could fall into Miami is definitely going to be better than Georgia Tech. And if you don't push them vertically in Miami, if there is a weakness on their defense, it's that secondary. It could be a long day for Florida, but it is Florida, man. Florida teams, supposedly they're going to be good on defense. I don't see it. They've got guys that could be good, but when you got a guy who's been playing for 3 years, he has 21 tackles and 1 sack, that doesn't scream good to me. Another guy who hasn't played in a year and a half, like there's a lot of what ifs, but these two teams are gonna come at each other and punch each other in the mouth. So, but Miami has the edge in so many. They've got the better defense, offensive line, the quarterback's better, and I didn't even mention they get Damian Martinez from Oregon State as a running back. Their running backs at Miami, which has always been strong, is definitely strong. In Florida, it's not good. Their one player just got knee surgery over the summer, game time decision, but if he hasn't practiced any through the summer here, so Florida could be and I'm trying to not be as biased as possible here and looking at everything. I just don't know where Florida, you can go, okay, they got the win here. Miami's loaded up at wide receivers. Man, I don't know. And you're right. The last projection I saw, Miami could be the number 3 team in the college playoff. Like, they're primed to, and they need it. Their coach is on the hot seat. They're primed to make the 11-1, 12-0 run here. So, but this is just the start. Florida's got a tough schedule, so they can't look. I mean, but if your first game is the Miami Hurricanes or the Florida Gators, you spent all summer prepping for them. Nobody else. Trust me, I've had big games before, and you're prepping to win that first game, especially when it's a rivalry and state game. So we'll see, man. You just got to get through the battle of emotions right off the bat, and it'll probably be a little bit of an ugly game in the beginning, but I think you see their defensive line and linebackers are good. That defensive line for Miami is a little scary. They got Ruben Bain, who last year's a true freshman, man, just wrecked it, and he's primed for his sophomore season. So this is a guy that's going to go number 1 in the draft in a couple years. So should be interesting, but I see Miami taking this game.
It's never a disappointment. The atmosphere there in the Swamp is going to be absolutely electric.
Ridiculous.
I mean, I'll probably feel a little like of the shockwaves here in Tampa from Gainesville this weekend, just because of how crazy it's going to be. But Scooter, do you agree with Carlos? Do you disagree with Carlos? What are you looking at for the Miami Hurricanes and the Florida Gators this weekend?
I've been every stadium minus Miami. I've been in the student section for FSU when I was at USF. I got numerous drinks thrown on me when we won that game. That's absolutely beautiful. Thank you, BJ Daniels, for that one. I've been at UF, not in the student section. I was at UF when USF played them. And I tell you what, the Swamp and Doak Campbell as well for FSU is just a completely different atmosphere. I don't care who you are. Florida is insane when it comes to football. Florida, FSU, USF was up there at one point or another, and we're making a comeback. UCF with the trampoline, it's just insane. Yeah, dude, the Swamp is a different beast. I don't care what team you are. Going into that is kind of intimidating. Cam Ward, I thought, was up for a Heisman run, and then he kind of fell off the run there with Washington State. Excellent quarterback, dual threat, great accuracy. Miami did an absolute killer number in the transfer portal and recruiting. UF, you got Graham Mertz. He's not as a deep ball threat as Cam Ward. He's more of a calculated guy. If you watch his earlier tape from Wisconsin, he works well in the pro offense. There's a lot of play action. Napier with UF kind of wants to get to more of a controlled game with some deep ball threat there. They're absolute track teams. If you look at Miami and UF, every single time it's a track team. You could put any dude from freshman to 6-year senior or whatever, and they're going to absolutely blow you out of the water for track, right? So just speed all around, minus probably the quarterback for UF right now. But you're going to see more of a calculated game for UF. You're going to see probably more of explosion from Miami. Defense is absolutely going to make this game. It's not going to be, I think the analysts have it at like 53.5 points or something stupid overall. I don't think it gets to that unless Miami starts pulling away. I don't think UF puts up big numbers on Miami's defense. Miami's defense needs to be more consistent, at least on paper and through tape. UF still has some stuff to prove. It's still an SEC defense. Let's keep that in mind. And they're playing at home. Overall, I think Miami wins, but it's not going to be as handed as some fans think. I think Bill Napier's got something going. He is also on the hot seat. If you want to talk about two coaches who are on the hot seat here, Cristobal, and I know we're going to get to this too, but Cristobal and Napier are on the hot seat. If you want to prove your case as a coach, starting with game one, it's this game with UF and Miami, and I think Cristobal gets the win here.
And I think that's the recipe for a great game. I mean, what better way to kick off? I mean, the schedule makers, I don't know if it's the same as the NFL. You can definitely correct me because you two are more in the college world than I am. But the schedule makers for this weekend did a fantastic job. I mean, just the kickoffs for some of these games is just incredible. And this game right here, this in-state rivalry, that is definitely one that I am going to be watching. But let's move on to our next game. Our next game is between the number one ranked Georgia Bulldogs and the Clemson Tigers. Now, Clemson has had a bit of a rocky road over the last couple of seasons. Ever since Trevor Lawrence kind of, went on to the NFL, they really haven't done too much. And then, of course, Georgia, they're the new Alabama. They're the new powerhouse. They're the team to beat every year, and so they have a very stout, and they kept a lot of their players, over this past year. And if they did get drafted, they went to Philadelphia. We all know that.
Or jail.
Right.
That's the blueprint for the Eagles. Just draft Georgia players.
But Georgia has a good offense, but this Clemson team has a pretty solid defense. Now, their offense is the big question mark coming into this game. Is this offense going to just be overpowered by this Georgia Bulldogs defense? Scooter, I want to hear your take on this, and let us know what you think. Can the Tigers overcome the power of this Georgia defense?
If you're taking a look at outright recruitment and stats and pedigree right now, I don't know how you don't pick Georgia. If you're looking at a coaching tree from Nick Saban's probably incredibly happy watching this game and having two of his former coaches go at it. Dabo had the run early with just ridiculous talent in offense and quarterbacks with Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. But there hasn't been any consistency since. So, it's hard to tell where they're at. And they had DJ from...
DJ ain't going to work here anymore.
Yeah. So, at the quarterback position for Clemson, it just hasn't been consistent. I know the kid that came in, it starts with a K, I can't remember, but he was a lot better looking at some tape. He has some pretty crisp throws. They always have talent. Like you said, their defense, their edge rushers, their linebacking core is fantastic. But you got Georgia, man. It's a 5-star team all around. Unless you're the, state troopers of Georgia, who are you going to beat? Who else is going to beat Georgia besides the Feds? So, again, stats. So, if you're looking at it from an SEC standpoint or ACC standpoint, you're looking at UGA being in the top dog, pun intended, being number one and probably higher probability for the Natty. Kirby Smart is an excellent recruiter, an excellent tactician too. And if Dabo doesn't get any breakout plays, it's very similar to the UF Miami game. If there's no explosive plays that kind of keep Georgia at bay and kind of have to take some chance, you got Carson Beck, man. The kid's good. And you name anybody on their defense, they're going to go to the NFL. So I got UGA easily by 14 points here.
Okay. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to argue with that, but maybe. Carlos, are you going to play devil's advocate here? Do you have the Tigers upsetting the big dogs in week one?
Here's the thing with Clemson. Clemson, I want to say Georgia has probably the best O-line in the country. They're very up there, but Clemson's defense might be the best in the country. They were rated second last year, and they returned a lot of superstars at every level. They're going to be tough to beat just on that aspect. That defense is so good. It's a good defense, man. So I think Georgia is going to, I don't know, they're going to have to battle through them, and it's a Dabo team that's not going to quit. Georgia just has so much firepower, man. They get Travis Etienne Jr. to transfer in from Florida. He may not play those on Saturday, but they even get Colby Young from Miami, and he was a great wide receiver. Man, when he left, it was kind of a dagger to the heart because this kid is big. He's got speed. Man, when you guys see this guy Saturday, you're gonna be like, where the hell did this guy come from? And they had probably going to be the number one pick in the draft next year with Beck. I mean, they're just star-studded, but I just don't think Clemson has enough on offense to do it, man. Their quarterback with Cade, He didn't have a great year last year. They just haven't had that quarterback play. They had Watson and then Lawrence, and I'm missing somebody in between there. I feel like, but they had that.
DJ.
Yeah, well, he doesn't count. That was their downfall. They put their eggs in that basket, and that where it went from there, it's gone all downhill. But they had such good quarterback play and running back play back in those days, and I just don't think they have enough on the offensive side. I think Georgia's still good on defense. I think the Clemson defense keeps them in it, but at the end of the day, Georgia's it's too much. And I feel like, that's another coach we're going to talk about later. Could be on the hot seat with Dabo. So I think Georgia wins this, but I think they keep it close. Clemson keeps it close for a little bit, but that offense doesn't help them out and keep that defense off the field. Georgia's just gonna wear them down. I mean, but we're gonna see the two massive offensive line, defensive line just clash, and it's gonna be fun, man. Just to see great O-line and great D-line is going to be fun to watch.
Definitely should be a game to watch. That is why we circled this game this weekend, because at the end of the day, although maybe on paper it looks like that Georgia is just going to kind of walk away with this one, don't be surprised if it comes down to some fourth quarter plays that end up making the winner of this game. But let's go ahead and let's talk about we Carlos, you touched on it, Dabo. If Clemson doesn't win this game against Georgia, I'm not too sure what the rest of their schedule looks like this year. But if they don't make the playoffs, or if they have another 9-4 year, I think they were 9-4 last year. Is Dabo out? Like, are we gonna is that the time to start talking? And if so, does he go somewhere else? Like, is another college jumping right on him and bringing him in as their new head coach?
So what's funny? We mentioned Dabo. Miami a couple of years ago signed the athletic director from Clemson to come in and clean up their that side of the program on the back end. He's still there, and if Cristobal were happen to not produce this year, maybe there's a reunion.
So you're saying Dabo maybe to Miami if they both see their way out of their current position?
I don't want to see it because that means Cristobal failed. But his old athletic director is there. They had a great relationship. What's not to say he doesn't? I don't think it happens. I think Dabo, it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't pull a Nick Saban at some point. Just like, I don't like this NIL. He's not a fan of it. And maybe he's just like, I'm done. Maybe he goes pro.
It's a possibility.
I don't think that Dabo is going to be a guy who transfers well to pro.
Maybe as a coordinator, not a head coach, but he is not a fan. And I truly believe the only reason Saban's not coaching, it's because of the NIL, where these players are there's no true loyalty anymore. It's more about the money. And I get it. I 100% get it. But that's not what college football was made of. And the traditions of college football are, it's just, it'll fade away. I mean, it'll be there if you're diehard fans. It's just, when you got a kid recruited, you expected him to be there 3 or 4 years, and you bought his jersey and all that. You're hoping he may not even be there 2. He might just be there 1. Oh, I didn't get to play right away. And then boom, he's gone, so I could see maybe Dabo, maybe it was into like a coordinator position into the NFL.
Yeah.
I could see him sticking around in Clemson if obviously he wins, right? If you're a winning coach and and you keep winning in your program and they keep kind of putting dudes behind you, and the NIL, like, Clemson's not cheap. Like, they still pay for players too, like everybody else. But I think if he starts feeling the itch to go somewhere else, Miami's an interesting one about the AD as well. I would argue you got to look at other teams like Texas, USC, Notre Dame, and OSU. Because historically speaking, Notre Dame hasn't really been producing, right? They get a couple wins, they might get a couple double-digit seasons, but they haven't been able to close one out, right? A top bowl or national championship game. If you're OSU and you're Ryan Day, you can't beat Michigan, and that's the whole point of being at OSU. So, is he in the hot seat? Probably not. Maybe, depending on which fan you're talking to. But if you're at Ohio State, you won a national championship game. That's it. You haven't seen it since Urban Meyer, and we all know how that played out. So, and if you're Lincoln Riley at USC, you got a storied program, man, and you got Oregon just running your face into the ground. And you got UCLA starting to make a comeback. Like, yeah, you got Heisman quarterbacks, but you can't get a championship. And then Texas, I mean, you just joined the SEC. You got Josh Hype, not Josh Hype, yeah. No, Sarkisian, sorry. Steve Sarkisian. Heupel's at Tennessee, my bad. Sarkisian, yeah, he's an excellent coach, again, from the Saban tree, and it's offensively fantastic. But it's Texas. Texas alumni are very brutal. If you do not win, you do not get the conference title. See you. So if Dabo doesn't like NIL, yeah, he's probably going to end up retiring. I don't think he goes to the NFL. If he does, probably coordinator. And if he's successful, maybe go for head coach, but that's the long ball. If he can deal with the NIL and deal with some boosters, I think he goes to a more storied program. Clemson is fantastic. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just sometimes you just got to leave and start something different. Like what Nick Saban did from LSU to Alabama. Won a national championship and was like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm going over here. I'm going to go win 6 more. Like,
take my ball. I'm going to Bama.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that'd be a great, like, it'd be insane.
That's great.
Well, Dabo is just one guy who might be on the hot seat this
maybe. If he wins the ACC, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee. This is obviously, just at this point, maybe just speculation, something that maybe we might see. I did say, if Dabo saw another 9-4 a year, could he see himself losing his job? Especially because of how much success he's had, but what other coaches, Carlos, what other coach are you looking at that you're like, hey, this guy is in a situation where he needs to win, and he needs to win now?
I mean, oddly enough, it's Ryan. Well, it's Mario Cristobal.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he. There's no reason not to win. He had the coaching blunder last year, and that's kind of been his thing. He's part of the Nick Saban tree. He was at Alabama, and he started there, even though he's played at the University of Miami. And then he goes to Oregon, and he does well there, but he just cannot. He can't put it all together where they make that big run. And I think there's questions about coaching under pressure during big games. He had the mishap last year against Georgia Tech where he refused to kneel the ball. And he ran it, and then they fumbled, and then Georgia Tech comes back and win it. It still wasn't a fumble. But so that's a question mark with him. Can he can recruit. He recruited at Alabama. He recruited at Oregon. It's never the issue. It's more of the coaching piece. But he's definitely a guy, man. If they don't win the ACC this year, or don't put it together, a 10-2, 11-1 record, I don't know if he comes back. But the problem is he's going to have a big buyout number, and that's the problem with some of these coaches. And Miami doesn't have a lot of money, not like some of these other schools. It's a private school. It houses 12,000 students. It's not like Ohio State, Florida, Texas A&M that's got money coming out their ears. I mean, they gave Jimbo a ton of money to leave. So
complete waste.
Yeah, I think it's him right now, along with a couple others. But I think Mario's got a lot of pressure on him to bring that program back to dominance. And I'm a firm believer sports need certain teams to be dominant. And whether it's the NFL, like I hate to say it, but it needs people. I really feel like it needs like the Raiders and Cowboys to come back and be those hard teams. Like those are teams you'll love to hate, and everybody loves to hate on teams. And I think Miami's one of them for college football. I think college football needs Miami to come back, that bad boy swagger thing. But he's a guy, man, got a lot of pressure on him.
Well, and I mean, like you said, the cards are in his favor, though. I mean, he has a team. He has a hell of a squad. And I think that they're primed to really make a run and surprise a lot of people this year. So, I mean, he would have to really, it would be a shame to see him build what he's been able to build there in Miami just for it to fall apart and him to have to hit the restart button somewhere else. But, Scooter, I know that you have a couple of guys on your board as well that you're kind of looking at that is in a win now situation. Who's one guy who's really sticking out to you, though?
I know we talked about this offline and we're discussing it now, and I've had two names written down, and I'm trying to fight my bias hard. Two guys stand out immediately as Brian Kelly for LSU. Without Jaden Daniels, he would have been fired. And you got Billy Napier, man. Like, the UF fan base is brutal. Boosters are brutal. Look at from Urban Meyer to now for UF. And even before then, like, if you do not win, and then you got to beat Georgia. Let's be honest. You don't beat Georgia in numerous seasons in a row, you're going to get fired from Florida. And that's why I keep leaning towards Bill Napier. Defensively, pretty solid. You had Dan Mullen before him. Defensively, kind of solid. But at the same token, you just couldn't win. You couldn't get beyond 750 on your win schedule. Florida is brutal, regardless of the school, when it comes to winning in football. It's the name of the game. You win or you go home. And you got to deal with your neighbors who are probably fan bases of your opponent, right? So you got UF and FSU all over the place. You got Miami fans. You got UCF ringing the bell in the Big 12. You got USF, which is trying to make a name for itself again on the roller coaster of whatever we're doing. You got FAU and FIU that kind of show up every once in a while. I think Bill Napier, absolutely for UF, has the potentially the hook off the stage. Is he recruited well? Yes, but I would argue, does he recruit well because it's UF, or does he recruit well because of what he's bringing to the table and the team he's putting around him? You got Graham Mertz, like, he's not a 5-star dude. Yeah, you had Etienne Jr., but he left you because you didn't win. You had Anthony Richardson. You had Ivory. You did the whole quarterback shuffling thing. Like, it's not like you don't have talent. And when you have talent, you can't tell me there's not at Florida. You can't tell me there's no talent in Florida. That'd be ridiculous. You got IMG. You got Thomas Aquinas. Like, come on. Like, name any high school in Florida, and you're going to get at least a 3-star athlete coming from you. From a talent standpoint, if UF does not win, like, probably 10 games or more this season, I think Napier probably leaves. And it's just because of the culture that we have. And it's like Ryan Day for OSU. Like, if you can't beat Michigan, bro, just go home. Like, because if you can't beat them, then you get Penn State. Like, and then the Big Ten's now like the Big 14 or something. You get the SEC, who's like 18 or 20 teams now.
That's ridiculous.
It's insane. So, like, the coaching carousel now is going to be pretty much win or go home. But at the same token, you got to look at it from a development standpoint. If you're an athletic director and you're like, okay, well, we poured all this into NIL. Okay, if I'm at UF and I'm their athletic director, I'm going, okay, Bill Napier, here you go. Here's $30 million. Go have fun. And you start winning double-digit seasons. Okay, you figure out what's going wrong. Is it a coordinator issue? Is it injuries? At the end of the day, you're the head coach and you're the one in charge, right? So if he doesn't win talent on the UF roster, man, I would fire him. But I'm not the one in charge. But I do think he's on the hot seat.
They've had such a debacle there at UF, too, with him. He was brought in because he was such a great recruiter. And then they had the whole Jaden Rashada NIL fiasco where the guy's suing them now. And he hasn't recruited at the level like they thought he would. So it's interesting with him. Yeah, well, he's at Georgia now. Like, you watch, this kid's going to be the starter for the Bulldogs next year, man. He's not a bad quarterback. They screwed him over. But, like you mentioned, you got to at least beat your rivals, and I think that's where Ryan Day's on the hot seat because he can't beat Michigan. And if you're not going to win natties, you got to beat your rival, and he has yet to beat Michigan, where Urban Meyer was undefeated against them. So, and those. When you're in a huge rivalry, especially Michigan, Ohio State, those Ohio State people get very impatient if you can't beat Michigan. Like, they're okay going 500 to a degree, as long as you beat Michigan, because you got that over their head. I mean,
100%.
it's the same thing. Like Florida State and Miami can have a bad season, but you hang the year on the rivalry game after that. So, yeah, man, it's weird to think that Ryan Day from Ohio State is on the hot seat. You know, the guy's only got 8 losses over the last 4 years, but he is. But with these coaches, year 3 says the most of, and Napier, Cristobal are headed into those years, and that's kind of the year where you put your stamp on the team. You got rid of the old coaches stuff, so we'll see. It's gonna be interesting. But Napier does have a $26 million buyout, so they're getting rid of him. Florida got to fork over 26. Can you imagine that being fired? Just think about this. You go get hired at your job, you suck, and we're going to give you $26 million. Hey, Dave, we're going to let you go today. Here's $26 million. Are you kidding me?
Insert Jesus. Russell Wilson.
So. It is. Hey, you suck. We're going to pay you this. We're paying you $15 million to go play somewhere else.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anywhere else, though. It's not a thing.
It doesn't. I mean, I really screwed up somewhere along the line.
Jimbo got was it 70 mil to leave 2 years early?
And they can they fork that. They're forking that check over every year. No problems. They're just like, here, man.
It's like Bobby Bonilla, bro.
Bobby Bonilla wishes he had that contract. Jesus mercy, man. It kills me that you can get fired in college football and get a huge payday out of it. That doesn't work at my job. You just
I want to know who their lawyer is. That's fantastic.
That's so true.
I'll call first thing in the morning.
Get them on the phone, boys. Get them on the phone. So, but fellas, it's college football. It's here. Fall's right around the corner. Pumpkin Spice is going to be back at Dunkin'. It's just back. It's already back.
It is back. I already been to Starbucks. Man, it is back.
Your basic is showing.
Football and pumpkin, we're going. Let's go.
We are in.
He's going to be drinking it.
He's just don't tag us if you see Dunkin', and Dunkin', if you're watching, we are looking for a sponsor. But football is back, college football especially, and just to kind of tie this up, the coach's hot seat. Although, Scooter, you did say that, you don't make those decisions, but as a fan you do, because there's nothing more louder than a college football fan base. This is the reason why I got into college football last year, and it's why I'm staying in college football this year. It is just because the passion, the dedication, the rivalry, everything. I mean, the House Divided t-shirts were made because of college football. This is the staple of football and the American just Saturday, right? So it's going to be a really fun year. Definitely stay tuned for every single episode. This is the first episode coming into this year. Every Wednesday, we're going to be breaking down all the games that happened over the past weekend and then looking at the games to come the following weekend. So stay plugged in, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. That is the best way to keep us going. And let us know down there in the comments what your team is going to be rocking this year as far as the win-loss record. Let us know. Kennesaw State fans, let's go undefeated, baby. We've done it in college football, NCAA
champs right here.
Exactly.
Just up the road.
We can do it in real life. But let us know down there in the comments. And stay tuned in all year long. But until next Wednesday.
Go Bulls.
Okay.
Go Bulls, go Canes. I'm still trying to choose my team. I was a Husky guy last year. But Penix is gone and he broke my heart because he went to my rival. Not his choice, I understand. But I have to do it smarter. Let me know who I should root for. What team what fan base should I dive into this year just to get heartbroken at the end of the year like I was last year? So, but follow us on all of our social medias. Almost forgot about that. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, aka X. Go ahead and follow us on there. And without further ado, Scooter, until next week.
Beard Zone.